factorizing four-term expressions via grouping. So what I mean is trying to factorize, if I look at a problem, an expression such as 6x minus 2z plus xz minus 12. How can I factorize this so that I will end up with two bracketed terms with two terms in each? That's my goal. And I do it, as I said, via grouping. And grouping means I group the terms. So I'm going to put grouping symbols, brackets, around my two terms, including all the signs, but I will keep a plus sign in the middle between them. So that way I know that it's this bracket plus this bracket. But before I move on and actually try and do this, I need to make sure I can factorize both my sets of brackets. If I look at this set of brackets, I can't factorize out any pronumerals, any letters, but I can factorize out my numbers, my coefficients. So if I look at this, I can factorize out a 2 because I can divide 2 by 2 and 6 by 2. Now let's look at the other terms. I can't factorize anything here. There is no number here that I can factorize out that's got to share as a common factor with negative 12. There's no number at all other than 1, and we want to try something other than 1. And there's no pronumeral here for me to try and factorize out with. So this grouping that I started off with, just with the order they were in, doesn't work. But I can reorder my terms, and I want to try and reorder them into terms that I can factorize. So I can have a look, well, these two and these two together didn't work, so let's try something else. If I look at the 6x and I look at the xz, so looking at these two terms, they share a common x. I can factorize out an x out of these, so they could make a bracketed term, a group. And if I look at my minus 2z and my minus 12, well, they're both even numbers there, so I can factor out 2, or even they're both negative, so I can factorize out negative 2. So let's use these as my groupings. So I have the group 6x plus xz, which I will group, and I will have the group minus 2z minus 12, which I will group, remembering to keep a plus sign in the middle. So now what I want to have a look at is factorizing these. So as I said, these two terms share a common x. So I can factorize out the x, and then on the inside, well, if I have 6x divide x, I'm left with 6. And if I have xz divide x, I'm left with z. And then we can add on our next two. And so let's look at what can I factorize out of these. They're both negative and they can both be divided by 2. The other thing I want to make sure of is these two brackets should end up the same. So the terms in both of these are positive, so I need to make them both be positive, which means I do want to bring out that negative. So I'm going to factorize out a negative 2 and then leave inside, well, negative 2 divided by 2 is 1, so the z will just be left. And negative 12 divided by negative 2 is plus 6. So now I have this, x outside of 6 plus 2, plus negative 2 outside of z plus 6. Now they don't quite look the same, but due to the fact that I can reorder addition sums because of the commutative law, 6 plus z is the same as z plus 6. So these two are the same. So that means because I've got these two common brackets in my two-term expression now, I can factorize them both down the front. So I can factorize out that common bracketed term of 6 plus z. And then I'll have another bracket which will include my other terms that were left behind after that factorizing. So I'll be left with the x, and I'll be left with the minus 2. And so there we have it. 6x minus 2z plus xz minus 12 factorizes to 6 plus z times x minus 2. So let's have a look at another problem. So let's put that one aside for now, and let's have a look at number 2. So number 2 is going to be 3x minus 4ax minus 24a plus 18. So first step, pick some groupings and see if they work. So let's try picking this grouping here. Can I factorize anything out? They both share an x term, so yes I can. Let's pick this grouping here then as my alternative, making sure I have a plus in the middle. Can I factorize anything? Well, they don't share a pronumeral, they don't share the letter. They do share numbers though. Both of them are even, so I can divide them both by 2. But bigger than that, they're both divisible by 6. So yes, I can factorize. So let's use this grouping as it is. So in my first set of brackets, we've already talked about being able to factorize out the x. So let's take out the x. Can I take anything else out? The numbers don't share anything, so I can't. So inside, 3x divide away the x is going to leave us 3. Negative 4a divide away the x is going to leave us negative 4a, because the x will cancel. Add on our next set of brackets. So here, we talked about the fact that we can factorize out with numbers. I can factorize out a 6 is the biggest factor, because 24 is 6 times 4 and 18 is 6 times 3. So let's factorize out the 6, and that will leave us here with negative 24a divided by 6. Well, 24 divided 6 is 4. We are negative, so we have negative 4a. Plus 18 divided by 6. Well, 18 divided by 6 is going to be 3. Check my brackets line up. I haven't made a mistake. 3 minus 4a is the same as 3 minus 4a. So that means I can factorize my common brackets out. These two are my common brackets, so they can be factorized down the front, 3 minus 4a. And my other terms can go into my second set of brackets, x plus 6. And that one is done. I got one final example, x cubed y minus 5xz plus x to the 4 minus 5yz. So let's see if we can group these. If I look at my first two terms, there's a common factor of x I can factorize out. Look at my second two terms though, there's no common factor I can factorize out. I've only got x's here, no x's here. So let's try reordering them into something more useful. So here I've got a y, so maybe I should pair it up with the y term. So I've got x cubed y minus 5yz. They both share y's, so we could group them. And here, these two both share x's, so I can have minus 5xz plus x to the power of 4. So let's group these and see what we end up with. So I've got that grouping, and I've got this grouping, and I've got to keep a plus in the middle. So looking at the first two terms, my common factor is the y, so I'm going to factorize out the y. X cubed times y divided by y is just going to be x cubed. Minus 5yz divide out the y is just going to be minus 5z. Add on our second lot. So what's common here? It's just the x. So I can factorize out the x. And we can then be left with, in my brackets, negative 5xz, factorize out the x, leaves us negative 5z, plus x to the 4, divide out the x, leaves us plus x cubed. And so now I have obtained our two matching sets of brackets. So they factorize out the front. And then we have our next set of brackets, which will include what we are left with, which is y and plus on our x. And so that one is now done. So there we go. If you have 4 bracketed terms and you're asked to factorize them, you can try factorizing via grouping. First thing you've got to try and find is pairs, 2 pairs, where something can factorize out of both. Then you do factorize, taking the highest possible factor you can from both the coefficients, the numbers, and the pronumerals, the variables, the letters. And that should give you 2 matching brackets across your 2 terms. You should have 2 terms, and they should each have the same matching bracket in them. Even if the terms are swapped, they should still match up, signs and everything, which means they can factorize out the front, and you can be left with what's left over in your second bracket. And remember, you can always check your factorizing by expanding back out.